Sorry, I meant to start with the recording before we did intros, but got most of our board on here tonight, and I'm going to pass it over to Sergeant Fisher to start with our crime report.
All right. Everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm getting good at this Zoom thing. No technical glitches last couple of times. Crime report. So when this got emailed to me today, I actually emailed back. Our crime analyst is out, and one of the other employees in investigations doing the data pack. I said, hey, could you look at that again? Are you sure that's right? Because there was only 3 incidents, and I have never seen a crime report that low. So way to go, Cleveland Park. Sounds like you guys are doing well. When you look at it from a historical standpoint, I mean, 3 incidents is fantastic. One of those incidents, actually, let me put my magic glasses on. It's one report, but it had multiple victims. But that was it's break into vehicles. So over in the area of the 900 block in North 5th, it said, I take that back. Correction, shattered the window of one vehicle, but stole multiple items. So that was just one victim. The other theft from vehicle you had was over in the 1200 block of Stainback, and they stole the license plate off of that vehicle. The other incident you had, the third and final for the report, was a commercial burglary in the 900 block of Dickerson over at the Vest Pocket Cleaners and Tailoring. They damaged the front door, shattered the window, and stole the entire cash register. So yeah, that's all the analyst or the person filling in for the analyst was able to pull out of the data over the last 30 days, which is great. That was it. Did somebody ask something?
I did, actually. Sergeant Fisher, Hayden Forsey here at 1200 block North 5th Street. I was on my way to Home Depot around lunch today, and somebody with pink hair can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, good. Somebody with pink hair was running into somebody's backyard. It was Douglas and North 7th,
okay.
And a swarm of cop cars ran around. This could very well be too early. My girlfriend actually listens to the dispatch every so often, and she picked up on it. I just remember I saw the pink hair, and I was just some skinny little person. I don't know if it was a guy or girl. I was just curious. I didn't know if any details had come through on that.
I would have to look that one up, only because. So I just came back into town yesterday. I've been gone for 5 days. We snuck away to Montana, and so I spent the entire day buried under close to 200 emails and voicemails, and wasn't monitoring our radio just because I knew that I had a lot of phone calls and emails to return. So I didn't catch that. But what I can do, which is no problem, is when I get in the office tomorrow. About what time did you say that was?
It was around lunch. That was when I was able to kind of scoot out. I was making a quick run, and everybody sort of halted because right there at Douglas and North 7th, there's a cute little white house there, just been renovated or something, and they ran into the backyard and all kinds of. I saw cops coming out of everywhere. Cars and everything.
So I'll get into what we call our CAD, which is the computer automated dispatch, and pull up the calls for service for today and research it. I'll fire an email to Sarah, and then she can put it on the page. Just hey, here's an update from Sergeant Fisher on the question from last night, and we'll get you actual facts and data as opposed to no telling what. Sometimes when these things happen, social media will be like, oh, I heard it was the axe murderer from Idaho, or something way off the rails. And
I heard there was a tiger loose in Nashville, right?
Right. There was a tiger. And a pink-haired lion tamer was trying to catch the tiger. So yeah, there's no telling what you'll run into when the information doesn't come from the actual dispatch center. So happy to do it.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yep. Anybody else?
Would that have included, I'm sorry, this is Summer Salmon from Pinnock Avenue. Would that have included the gunshots that were on our street? I think it was on the 1100 block a few days ago. Would that?
So the crime reports we do capture what we call Part 1 crimes. Those are the categories of crimes the FBI uses to establish crime rates across the country. So gunshots, and those are a frequent occurrence in the city, when people hear shots going off, if we get out there and there's no victims, nobody was shot at, nobody's house was shot up with people inside, then it's not going to fall into one of those Part 1 categories because it's not an aggravated assault. So there's a difference between shots fired and a shooting. You're tracking like somebody was shot at or an aggravated assault. So it wouldn't if it was just shots being heard.
So like if a car was vandalized with the bullet, it wouldn't count. Okay.
Unless somebody was in that car, then it would be an aggravated assault, and unless they'd been killed, obviously, and then it'd be a homicide. But yeah, so when it's just a property damage, like let's say somebody did shoot up a house, but nobody was inside the house at the time, then it's gonna be a property damage report. But if there's somebody in the house, then it would be an aggravated assault.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Sure. Jason's on here twice.
I know. I was going to ask if everybody else could see Jason twice.
Well, good deal. As always, any time that you have questions or concerns, don't wait for the meetings. Fire me an email. If one of these things, like the shots fired that you were referring to, if that happens, email me that day. Or if you're running out to Home Depot at lunch and you see a bunch of flurry of activity, fire me a note when you get home and go, hey, dude, what's going on in my neighborhood? And I'll research it for you right then and there and let you know. So that's what the computer's for. Always happy to dig in and get you the information you need.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you being on.
You got it. I'm going to go finish cooking dinner.
Okay. Have fun.
Right.
See you.
See ya.
See ya.
Mhm.
All right. So got our update there. 3 incidents. That's awesome for us. Let's see. Let's kick it over. Sean Parker, I know you've got to sign off a little early. I don't think we're actually going to go that late, y'all, because we've got a fairly quick agenda. But Sean, you want to go ahead and give us a council update?
Sure. Yeah. Not a whole lot going on in terms of like new proposals or anything. I think Scott Morton's here to talk about their project on the other side of Dickerson, but just because of the adjacency to the neighborhood, I thought it would be appropriate for him to kind of talk with y'all about that and present to y'all. A couple of folks filed some, after contacting me and me telling them that I probably wouldn't be supportive of it, a couple of folks filed a couple of DADU SP to R6 rezonings. The last I saw on the draft agenda, those were still on the planning agenda, so I'm not really sure what their plan is there. They're both up along Douglas on the Cleveland Park side. I'm not generally a huge fan of single lot rezonings in residential areas. I think that it's just not a comprehensive approach. So we'll see what happens there with Planning Commission and if they actually follow through with having those hearings. I think at our first meeting in October, the 6th Street rezoning to R6, the site where the mixed-use development was proposed last year, that will be up for public hearing on second reading. That's about it development-wise. Outside of that, I've been working on this outdoor dining bill that's been really cool. I think we'll be able to get this across the finish line on Tuesday. And what this bill is going to allow a lot of restaurants to do is expand their outdoor seating. A lot of restaurants are facing capacity restrictions right now. And I think a lot of people, myself included, are just a lot more comfortable, doing things out of doors right now than they are being inside a crowded building. So I'm hoping that gets some relief to our hospitality workers and our restaurant owners and just folks who want to go out and eat safely.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot of work because there's so many, anytime you're doing a countywide bill that involves, 4 different departments at least, we're talking codes, fire marshal, planning, public works. There's probably some others that are involved too. It takes a ton of coordination, and I'll be glad to have this one off my plate if we can get it done Tuesday. Does anybody have any questions for me, or just kind of information, things going on in the neighborhood you'd like to let us know about?
Any updates from the group?
Okay, cool. Well, you can always reach me at sean.parker@nashville.gov. My cell number is 615-339-6946. The number that's listed on the Metro website it's an office number that it does forward to my cell phone, but if you send a text, I don't know what happens if you send a text to that number. And also, I can't tell who's calling when you call that number. So you're always welcome to just call or text me at 615-339-6946 if anything comes up. All right. Well, thanks for having me here, y'all.
Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you.
Appreciate it. I'm going to kick it over to Frank, our treasurer, if you want to give us an update on our account, which is just kind of sitting there right now.
Yeah, totally. We have got $212.73 in our checking account, and the only activity there has been on that account over the past several months is the $5 service fees that the bank charges. So there's nothing coming in, nothing going out, except for the service fees.
Is there any way to get rid of those service fees? I mean, as a nonprofit, no, you're shaking.
Yeah.
Jason's already shaking his head.
Jason's trod this road before.
Okay.
We tried.
Yeah.
We tried.
It's like related to your balance, right?
Right.
I think that there's a way we could get a bunch of money into the account.
That would.
We have a bunch of money in the account, then they won't charge us a service fee. That makes perfect sense. That's
Some banks,
really
it's like,
smart. Yeah.
some banks, it's like $1,000. Like you get to that point and then the fees go away. Or something. There's some threshold. You get to it and then the fees go away.
Gotcha. I don't feel like anyone in our neighborhood would really want us to just be sitting on $1,000 though and not doing anything with it. So,
Yeah, and the
Cool.
alternative to like keeping $200 in of cash in an envelope is like the way to manage the funds is, I think, not so appealing. That's what my other neighborhood association did. It was just like a bunch of cash in an envelope that would like change hands between whoever the treasurer was. Like $5 a month is like worth some peace of mind knowing that it's like in a secure location and that's where.
Yeah, so somebody doesn't run off and buy whatever it is you can buy with $200.
$200, right? Some premium paper towels in this crazy paper towel market.
I'll get you a couple bottles of hand sanitizer.
Right, yeah.
All right, well, good to know. I guess normally this time of year we would be talking about our Halloween event, which has been Trick or Treat Stockwell Street the last couple of years. We've held down the fort kind of at our house at 1117 Stockwell, doing the popcorn machine, and then I think a few other folks were doing things, but as of right now, I don't know what Halloween is going to look like.
You got that right.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I don't know if I'm going to send my kid out trick-or-treating. Not only that, but I don't know if anyone's going to want to really hand out candy to a bunch of strange kids. So, I don't really know. If things change drastically and all of a sudden there's a vaccine tomorrow and things have lifted, I guess we'll be talking about it. But I would assume, for the time being, probably won't see much trick-or-treating this year, which is sad because it was really starting to take off. The past couple of years have been really good. We've had a lot of kids come out and attend. So I definitely hope that we'll be able to bring this back next year. But I guess just keep an eye on the Facebook page. I'll update as I hear anything. If we start seeing folks who'd like to come out, I don't really know at this point. So does any other board members, y'all have anything to add? Russell, were you able to figure out you're moving towards the screen. Any updates for us, Beautification Commissioner?
Let's see. They lifted some restrictions on cleanups and have protocols in place for that. So if we did want to move forward on a cleanup, we could do that. But I'm focused on trees now, and trees are great.
Trees are great. Yes, we love trees.
I'm going to drop mulch at Cleveland Park, and we're going to spread mulch in, I don't know, November, sometime when fall actually hits.
So are you saying, though, that we can schedule a cleanup? Because I know we probably need to do one soon.
It would not be with dumpsters and alley cleanup like we're used to, because they won't do that. but they will do like street cleanups and stuff like that, which, I mean, gosh, we already know how to do that, but
Yeah.
the restrictions on the dumpsters are still on hold.
Okay.
So.
Well, without a dumpster, it's kind of hard to do a cleanup. Unless I guess we just organize everybody bring your own trash bag and throw your trash bag away in your own garbage, which I guess we could do. I mean, if you've got
Kind
the
of pretty much how the protocol is, yes.
if you've got the grab, if we can we use the grabbers?
Yes.
Okay, well maybe we'll just set up something like for a Saturday or something and just say, hey, come out if you want to grab, you know, some pickers and bring a bag, and we'll go out and we'll at least try to hit up some of Cleveland Street since we've adopted that street, and then if people can use them for their own block if they want to.
That would be okay. And we maybe could piggyback off the with the neighborhood garage sale that's going on at the end of September.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll look into that and see if we want to push something on that too. So
Okay.
I'll get with you.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Russell. Appreciate it. And I just saw Ms. Bugs has signed on. Hey, do you want to give us an update from Metro Schools? How are things going? Recently elected chair.
So yeah, things are going. Being honest, we're completely virtual right now. We have a few different options on the table about phasing in young people. So let me give you the high level overview. Today we began phasing in students with any kind of exceptional needs, the most extreme exceptional needs. So we've contracted out a few day schools like Genesis, where think about students who may have both physical and maybe a cognitive delay. They may be on the spectrum and need consistent physical support, and they just were not able to function with the virtual learning. So we brought them back in first. We'll be monitoring them for the next few days. And then next Wednesday, we'll bring in our 3 MNPS day schools. So that's Harris Hillman, Cora Howe, and Morrow. They all support students with exceptional needs also. If you're at all confused about what exceptional needs means, it's just different accommodations for different, literally exceptional needs that students have. So if a student has an IEP, some type of maybe behavioral plan, if they have any kind of need that cannot easily be met and may need support with an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, a speech pathologist, a behavioral, any of those specialists, then we're bringing them back in next Wednesday. After next Wednesday, again, we'll be monitoring all 4 schools, and then we'll start to bring in any student with any exceptional need into school buildings. So imagine you have a child that may be at Stratford. They have an IEP of some sort, but they're in inclusion classes. So they may be on the spectrum of autism, but they function just fine. It's just that virtual learning is not ideal for them. They need some type of supports. We consider those students our most vulnerable population, so we wanted to bring them in quickly. So we're bringing them in first. Well, simultaneously, if you have an elementary school student, we have partnered with the YMCA because they got a grant to support daycare centers. So we've partnered with them to bring in elementary school students to those locations. We've trained the staff on just supporting virtual learning. So if I had a 4th grade student, they would be at a YMCA, they would be supported by the staff there, but their teacher would still be teaching them on virtual learning. I know there's a lot right now, so I'll stop there. What questions do you have? And please know that I am going to ask for suggestions or thoughts at the end, but I at least want to make sure that I'm hitting any questions.
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to remind everyone with the Merle, is that how you say it, Merle School?
Yeah.
With that one's in our neighborhood. So with that going back, remember the speed zones will be back up and running. So just be aware of that on Cleveland.
Thank you for that. Yes. All right, so that's our first phase in, students with exceptional needs and any elementary school students to the YMCA facilities. Now we've decided that after fall break, we will begin phasing in pre-K, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade students into school buildings. So right now we've sent out a survey. If you are the parent of a student, if you know a parent of a student, a caregiver of a student, anyone connected to a student, please ask parents to fill out the survey for every child in their home. Because this is a heavy lift. We understand that there are so many. I think at last count, we had roughly 70% of our families want to continue engaging in virtual learning, but that still means that 30% want to engage in in-person learning. So we're trying to balance our supporting families who want to be in person and supporting those who do not. So we're going to be phasing in those pre-K through 2nd grade students beginning after fall break, which is October 5th through 9th. So that Monday, we'll begin phasing in students. That week will be pre-K through second, and then every week after that we'll phase in a new grade level until through 8th grade. I know there's so many different thoughts about all of this, and I completely understand. I think the biggest message that I want to send to community members is that we empathize with you. I mean, I have a toddler, and I know how hard it's been to struggle with him while I work my full-time day job and I'm a school board member. But I also have to remember that my 2-year-old is a toddler. He can play all day. So I don't have the same stress level that some of you all have. So we're empathizing for sure, but there are so many differing and conflicting perspectives that we're just trying to make sure we support each family, each district, each group as best we can. So that's where I'll stop. What questions, thoughts, suggestions, concerns do you want to offer? Even if you want to yell at me, I'm here for that also. Hell, I'm serious.
Any questions or comments or suggestions from the group?
Well, I'll put my
Doesn't look like.
Yeah, what's
sorry,
the
go ahead, Frank.
vibe like? I mean, like, how are you guys doing? Like, how are the teachers doing? Like, how are the people that have to actually go and work in our schools? Like, how are you guys holding up?
So teachers, I think many teachers, even if they struggled on the front end to really understand how to juggle everything with virtual learning, because imagine when I was a 7th grade teacher, I was teaching systems of equations. It's hard to do that virtually because I want to see the work of each child. I want to understand where are they foundationally. Then the idea that they weren't in school for 6 months, that our school year ended in March, so we don't have any true assessment as to what they learned previously. All of those things have been compounded. So I think our teachers may have struggled in the beginning, but once they learned to balance it, we've heard overwhelmingly from teachers that they would prefer to stay in virtual learning. Again, please know that doesn't mean that everyone wants that, but that is what a lot of our teachers have said to us. I think many of them, and understandably so, are frustrated that we're even in the phase-in process. But on the other hand, we have heard from, frankly, our more affluent neighbors who are frustrated with the virtual learning, especially for their elementary school students. And so we've heard overwhelmingly from some pockets of our community that they really want in person. So the vibe is just kind of different depending on who you're asking. If you're asking a family that kind of has the means or has a setup to support their students or their family, if it's smooth for them. It might be different if you ask a teacher that has young children versus a teacher that has older ones. So yeah, that's where the problem lies. How do you feel the vibe, especially when we can only feel it virtually?
Yeah, gosh.
Is there something that we could be doing to support the teachers or just to support some of the children in our community?
Sure. So I try to offer some kind of low, middle, and high level kind of suggestions or offerings that community members can pick up. I would say any way that you can support a student, any way that you can support a classroom. So if it's partnering with a teacher to help them with facilitating a class, like being able to log in on their class, help them to grade tests, grade quizzes, offer feedback to students, especially particularly in the lower grades. Teachers are starting to partner with community members to read books to students, to offer small group breakouts. So if you know a teacher, that's pretty much an easy fix. Just reach out to them and say, hey, is there something I can do for you during your school day, like during your synchronous time? Or is there something I can support you in doing after hours? Is there some way that I can take some of that load off of you? The other way would be reaching out to a school that you're close to or a school that you feel comfortable reaching out to and saying, well, what children in your area or what children in your school have not logged on? Do you need more what we call navigators? Navigators are what we've assigned in each school. Every adult in the school building is considered a navigator, and they are assigned at least 10 students. And those 10 students are who they're responsible for, like their club, their group, their cluster. So like my dad, he is a parapro at Jerry Baxter, meaning he's a teacher's aide. He's retired, so he's so excited to be doing this. He has his 10 students that he calls each day. He just calls to check in on them. If they haven't logged in, he's doing home visits. Now, no, we're not asking community members to do home visits, but there are things like that you can do, just calling in and checking in on students. The last thing would be, we have IT hubs. You have families or students who have better yet, you have parents who have only ever dealt with a QWERTY keyboard. I didn't think about that back in March, that there are some students, some parents who have never taken Mavis Beacon, They don't know the home row keys. They don't, when you ask them to Google something or go to the browser, they don't even know what you're talking about. So we have these IT hubs in different schools around the district. I think we have 7 different locations. And like I was at Robert Churchwell last week, and we just set up tents outside so that we could socially distance, and parents and families brought their computers up. We helped them with laptops. We helped them troubleshoot. We helped them with passwords. So there's always the opportunity of that. Now, I'm going to put my number and my email address in the chat. So if any of that feels like something you would like to do, I can certainly connect you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for that
I
question.
appreciate
That's awesome.
Awesome, thanks. Ben, I know you had a question.
Yeah, I just had, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering, I got a notice as a parent that we had to make a decision between whether we're going to go completely virtual or go back to in-class learning for the rest of the year. Is that something that was just a figment of my imagination? Is that something that's real? And if so, what can we do as a community? Because I know a lot of the parents here in Cleveland Park specifically may not be as engaged around the virtual learning, but if they have to make a decision, how do we help them make that decision for their child?
Oh, Ben, that is the $1 million question, and thank you for asking it. So first, there is some ambiguous language out there. You are making the decision through the end of this calendar year, so through the end of the semester. So let's say that let's say you have a second grade student. You're making the decision to either keep them virtual or keep them in person through December when we go out for Christmas break. If I think, as with my parent and my teacher hat on, if I'm thinking about the questions I would want to know, well, if I opt into in-person learning, will I have the same teacher? To be frank, we really don't know. The reason that the reason that we put this September 15th deadline is because we need a lot of time to be able to look at all the logistics. So we'll take East High School, for example. Well, no, that's not a good one because we're starting with pre-K. Let's take an elementary school. Let's take Ida B. Wells, for example. Let's say that 40% of the students actually want to come back in for in-person learning, but there's an older teaching staff. There are so many staff members that have accommodations that mean that they can't be in the school building. We may need to reassign your child if they want to be in person because their teacher only is going to opt in for virtual learning. Another question that I would want to know, I think, is what will the day look like? Well, we decided that the pacing and the curriculum will be the same no matter whether you're in person or virtual. So no matter who your teacher is, we're using what's called the Florida Virtual School Curriculum. And it's aligned to the Tennessee State standards. Imagine you take all the different things you need to learn in math, all the different math standards. Let's say it's adding fractions, counting to 100, and multiplying. If those are the things that you have to learn that year, whether you're in person or virtual, you're going to learn them at the same time. It's going to be the same homework, same assessments. So it'll be as quote unquote equal as possible. It's hard to think about all the different questions that I would want as a parent or that I would want to give to community members. So if you have some, let me know. But I would say those are the ones that I've heard the most about. The people think that it's through May, and it's not. It's the decision is made through December, but there is a possibility that your child's teacher might change, and the pacing is going to be the same. Those are the big ones. You good with that? If you don't mind me asking, Ben, and I don't mean to pry, but this will give me some insight. As a parent, are you all leaning towards in-person, or are you leaning more towards virtual? What makes you feel most comfortable? And then if you feel comfortable giving me a reason, that would help.
We're going to stay virtual because of our work schedules. We can't subject ourselves to the uncertainty of whether or not the schools may shut down at any time and go back to virtual. So we're going to try to maintain a schedule of stick with the virtual calendar as opposed to actually going back to the actual premises of the school, because it just works better for us as business owners to be able to operate it that way.
I get it, and I do think a lot of community members are feeling the same way, especially as we slide into flu season. I mean, it's finally starting to get maybe not cool, but not as warm, which means that at some point it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold season. It's going to be flu season, which means that these lower case numbers that we're seeing could increase. And that's the pessimist in me talking for sure. But that's also kind of the realist in me talking. So I could see in-person learning having to be shut down if there's another spike. I know that was a lot. Questions?
That
thoughts,
was
concerns?
fantastic. Thank you so much for all of that information. That's super. And we're, just so you know, Christian, we're recording this, so I'll be able to post this on our Facebook page, and everyone will be able to kind of see and hear what you've said. And I'll make sure to emphasize that you brought us a lot of information about what our schools are doing. So thanks for signing on.
It's
today. I
okay.
appreciate
Just
it.
bracing myself to get cursed out a few more times, and that's okay. This is what I signed up for, right? Thank you all so much for this.
We don't talk like that in our meetings. This is not just as we say on the Facebook page. This is not the East Nashville Facebook page. You can't talk like that here. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Morton, who is here presenting about if I'm remembering correctly, affordable housing on Dickerson Pike.
That is correct. Thank you, Sarah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here today,
thanks
Scott.
everybody. My name is Scott Morton. I work at Smith Studio. We're a local architecture and planning firm. I'm actually joined here tonight by the developer for the affordable housing. Representative Ryan Lunderby is joining us today, and we're going to kind of co-present today the presentation and walk through what we're trying to accomplish at 900 Dickerson. So I'm going to pass it off to Ryan to start us out while I try to navigate the.
Do y'all need a screen share?
We do. We do
Okay,
have a presentation prepared, so
I've got to turn it on real fast.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, it should be good.
Perfect. Yep, it's working great. All right. Can everybody see my screen now? PowerPoint?
Mm-hmm. Dominion?
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. All right, great. Well, Ryan, I'm going to pass it over to you if you want to get us started, and I will walk us through the slides.
Sure, sounds good. Chair and co-chair and members of the community, thanks for having us tonight and taking time to listen to us. We've got a project that's on the early stages of our design and process overall, located at 900 Dickerson, I think just across the street from your neighborhood. And excited to talk to you tonight, just to let you know some information about what we're hoping to accomplish and receive any feedback or questions from you all as well. The company I work for is called Dominium, and we're based in Minneapolis, but have some offices on the management side and development side, kind of in a few places around the country. And our primary focus is affordable housing, and we're owners, developers, and managers of affordable housing. We've been around for nearly 50 years now, and have really always had a focus on that end of trying to find ways to provide good quality housing that's well maintained for the long term for people that need it in the community at affordable rent levels. We do this all over the country. Like I said, we're a long-term owner. Most of the times that we're involved in a project, we're involved from the start of the project for a period of 20 years, and part of that is driven by some of the financing that finances affordable housing and so forth. But we're long-term members of the community on the projects that we develop or purchase from other owners, and look to be longstanding community members and keep our properties up as a result of that. This just gives you a little bit of a snapshot of where we're located. We do have some communities in the Nashville area of Tennessee, and our first projects in Tennessee were purchased. Actually, we didn't develop them about 5 years ago. But we employ over 1,100 people. Most of those are at our various communities, either office staff or maintenance staff. Almost all of our communities have on-site management and 24-hour maintenance, and which would be the case on this proposed project as well. And there you kind of see the kind of how long we've typically owned properties, and some of those. So there's roughly a quarter of our portfolio we've owned for more than 15 years, and the other ones are shorter, most likely because we've just developed them or just purchased them. So these are just a couple of examples. Most of these are in more urban areas that would be more relevant to the 900 Dickerson site. A few of these are in the Twin Cities, a historic project down in St. Louis that we completed. Go to the next slide, Scott. Here's a couple of the communities that we own in Tennessee. One's Waterview and Hendersonville, and the other is Chariot Point in Murfreesboro. Both of those communities are ones that Dominium didn't originally develop, but we purchased and preserved the affordable housing and put about $30,000 an apartment unit into rehabbing those communities so that they can be better for the residents and last longer and so forth. This is another community. So this one is actually under construction, not too far away from our current site, also on Dickerson Pike. And we actually just opened the doors of our first building within the last week and have new residents living there. And the construction is still occurring on about 4 or 5 of the buildings, but that'll be wrapped up in the next few months. And this community will provide homes at affordable rent levels for about 261 families. And so if you're driving by on the north side, take a look. You'll see it. It's near the Skyline Hospital area, and that Lowe's and Walmart that's I think just outside the Beltway on Dickerson Pike. And I think Scott, or turn it over to you here.
Great, thanks Ryan. That's a good intro to Dominium. Again, my name's Scott Morton. I'm with Smith G Studio. We're a local planning and architecture firm here in town. We're assisting Dominium on the design efforts related to this project. We're very excited to be involved with the affordable housing project here in the community. I'm actually a resident of East Nashville and thoroughly enjoy working on projects in my community. The project site and location you're all, I'm sure, familiar with is at the intersection of Cleveland Street and Dickerson Pike. It's 900 Dickerson. The existing site is, if anybody knows, the old Piggly Wiggly grocery store site that's directly across the street. And so it's adjacent to the interstate. Here, this intersection here is at Cleveland Street and Dickerson. The property is highlighted here in yellow. There's an image showing the existing conditions on site, which is a vacant parking lot, and with the industrial building behind it at that intersection. A few more just character imageries of the existing conditions. Obviously, this site and its proximity to downtown and kind of the beginning of the Dickerson Gateway has extremely prominent views of the downtown skyline, great access to the interstate and the commercial corridor of Dickerson and downtown as well. Our proposal, again, includes it's affordable housing development for the Dickerson corridor that will be guaranteed affordable for a 30-year term. This site plan is shown at the intersection of Cleveland Street and Dickerson Pike. We're providing a variety of housing choices and different options from studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. for low-income residents. In addition to that, we will be providing a mixture of amenities that I'll walk through here in a moment. The site plan was drawn on the basis of the most recent policy update. Many of you were involved with the recent effort, maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, for the Dickerson South corridor study. And we used the policy recommendations from that corridor study to influence our design decisions here in this project. And so right now, again, it's very early. We're in the zoning phase, and it's subject to change slightly, but we are currently proposing around 280 affordable units on site within a 6-story mixed-use building. This portion of the corridor and the policy that's here and the future planned transit promotes some increased density along this corridor to promote new residential housing choices. It allows up to 6 stories on the corridor itself, and then up to 12 stories as you step back towards the interstate. And so this entire project will be built on 6 stories with a ground floor parking structure for the residents as well, with a mixture of green open spaces and courtyards spread throughout the site. Again, we're very early, but I wanted to, it's always important to begin to convey kind of the mass and scale of what we're anticipating. And so I wanted to share with everyone some character imagery of these are projects that our firm designed that are of a similar scale and proportion of what we're envisioning for the site. We haven't produced any detailed architectural renderings yet, as we are early in the process in the zoning phase, but as we move forward and as it goes through this process, we will be coming back to the community with updates along the way. So again, we wanted to get feedback today, since we are very early, on kind of the community's desires on design and style, and kind of get some feedback on that front. We've provided here today just a mixture of character imagery that shows some more modern and contemporary uses, but also you know, some more traditional forms, and we want to make sure that this is compatible for this section of Dickerson and its adjacency to the Cleveland Park community as well. So I'll just briefly walk through some of the imagery we've provided includes some of the exterior finishes. You know, we wanted this to be long lasting. One of the great things about Dominium is being a long-term owner and guaranteeing that affordability for a 30-year term through their HUD contract is that they really believe in quality materials and longevity. And so durability and high quality materials is a fundamental part of their strategy, which is really great because it provides a quality product for the community, because they're going to be the ones maintaining it for at least 30 years or more, as you can see in their portfolio. Additionally, it's all about the residents. And so this project, to attract low-income residents, will be providing a very robust amenity package, which will include a mixture of amenities both within the building, internally, interior to the structure, but also externally in the courtyards that we have scattered throughout the site. Again, just a few more character images showing some different projects. We do envision this property will have a very nice courtyard design, a mixture of amenities from gaming rooms, club rooms, gathering spaces, including a rooftop deck that has prominent views of downtown for residents to relax. We have also contemplated including a salon, hair salon for residents within the structure, card room, craft rooms, and lots of meeting space spread throughout the amenity center. Here's just some of our conceptual ideas. As I talked about, we'll have a prominent ground floor residential lobby that will have some office spaces for residents and the salon. There'll be a craft room, a club room, a theater, a fitness center, and a large lounge area on the community courtyard level. This is some of Dominion's existing amenities. You can see on the top left is one of their salons that they've incorporated into one of their projects. They believe in providing high quality amenity spaces throughout their portfolio, and will do so here for the residents with a lot of different types of entertainment uses and gathering spaces within the courtyards and throughout the building. Again, possibility for some age-focused activities such as a playground could be provided within the structure, as well as some more adult-focused games such as bocce ball, for example. High-quality finishes, again, longevity is key here. So, high-quality countertops and materials will be used throughout the interiors and the exteriors of the building. Livability is really critical for this site and for this market sector for low-income families. And so, in conclusion, we wanted to share some of the income guidelines and what we're focusing on the affordability levels, and then we'll open it up for questions. But we're very excited to provide what we think is a much needed asset for the community and providing low-income choices for residents in the area, and a lot of different options that aren't currently available in the marketplace. And so, Ryan, if you want to walk through kind of your rent structure and what the terms look like through your HUD agreement, I'll pass it back to you.
Sure, thanks, Scott. And one thing that Scott, as you were going through it, that I didn't hear you mention, but we're currently contemplating gearing this towards a senior community that would be for kind of independent living, active seniors, and that would come with it a head of household that's age restricted to 55 plus. And so a lot of the amenities that you were seeing in the initial plans and some of the photos, are geared towards that active senior living, and those seniors and the rent structure would be kind of as you're seeing on the screen. These are what's currently in place today in 2020, and you see kind of the rent levels of the studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments, and a mix of those, and where those levels are at. The incomes that are shown are incomes that equate to those rent levels. So the rent levels are really derived directly from those income levels, which are published by HUD on an annual basis. So the agreements that we'll have in place, like Scott mentioned, will be for a 30-year period, and which means that this rent structure will be in place for that entire time, only changing with annual inflationary type increases as the area median incomes of Nashville adjust each year. And so with that, I know that was a longer presentation, and but we're happy to answer any questions that you guys have, and appreciate the time that you've given us. So.
Hey, so question on the maximum income. So could you explain the diagram a bit better? So I see 5-person. Is that 5-person to a 2-bedroom unit, or is this you had a household of 5 people? Could you clarify that?
Yeah. So what they try to do with the income levels. So when someone comes to lease an apartment at this community, they'll have to be at or below the income levels that are shown on the screen in order to qualify to live there. If they make too much money, then that housing, they would have to find a different choice, because what the intent of this is to limit it to people that are at or below these income levels, to make sure that there's affordable choices for people that really need them. And the differences between the 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5-person is they're accounting for adjustments. So if there's you know, household that has more than one person, and that they're allowing for those incomes to be at a higher level in order to income qualify at the property.
Yeah.
That said, the rent levels that are shown are stagnant. They don't change. So if you have 4 people in your household versus 2, the rent for a 2-bedroom apartment would be the same.
But the income could go up depending. Okay.
Depending on how many people in the household. Yep.
In the household, got it.
That's right.
Okay. So in terms of the amenities and whatnot, I saw a salon. I know there's some other amenities that's going to require staff. So what's going to be the plan, for workers? Would it be members of the communities already there, or would it be external, staff members?
Yeah, so Dominium manages all of the communities that it owns, and we'll have on-site management at this property.
Okay.
And so there will be in the common area space of the building, we'll have offices that'll be built out, and a property of this size would typically have at least 2 members of the administrative team, a community manager and an assistant manager. And then there would also be a maintenance team that would be permanently on site as well. And that maintenance team would likely be 2 to 3 people as well. So there'll be a minimum of 4 staff members that are on site on the property. And their day-to-day job is to run and oversee and make sure that the community looks good and the residents are provided the services that they need and things that they request for their apartments.
Okay. I believe you said earlier in the presentation that there might be some mixed use space. I may have heard incorrectly. Like, would that be spaces to rent for external businesses, or is this just solely under Dominium?
Yeah, the only space that's that's not apartment units would be the common areas of the building that would be available for the residents. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
And you mentioned, so 100% of the units will be income restricted, or just a subset of them?
100%.
100%. Got it.
Yep. All of the units. Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Great.
And maybe I could mention just the timing to the process to complete, a new apartment like this is, can be lengthy, and we're at the early stages of that. But we, if all goes well, and we're able to receive kind of the financing approvals and the various things that we need to have happen, we're hopeful that we would break ground sometime in 2021. But it's pretty preliminary, and as Scott mentioned, as we kind of know more information and so forth, we can certainly get back on your schedule to keep you guys apprised of what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that one question we've already gotten is just about, and I know is a concern in the community, is about what is going to be permitted here in the residences. Will it allow short-term rental properties, which I know is a very hot topic. So one thing to note is the federal contract with HUD will prohibit short-term rental as a use for the entire term of the agreement. So for 30 years, there will be no short-term rentals allowed on the property. And I know that's very important to a lot of folks. Secondly, we currently have the base zoning for the site has been historically commercial services, which allows for our use as well as residential as permitted with conditions. And so the base zoning allows for what we're intending, but we do have to go through a small request through the Board of Zoning Appeals for our building height. and our rear setback. And so I wanted to briefly describe that process. And so right now with the older commercial services zoning, which was created in the early 70s, it's a pretty antiquated zoning category. What it does is it allows a lot of property rights, but when it comes to the building form and mass, when it was originally created, it emphasizes allowing a lot of height at the rear of the property. So, you know, for example, in this property, we could build a 10-story building as long as it's on the back of the site. And so we obviously don't want to do that, but we work closely with planning and the policy that was put in place recently that suggests up to 6 stories on the street in a more appropriate kind of urban form. And so what we're asking for with the Board of Zoning Appeals is to move some of that height from the back to the front and limit it to 6 stories total. And that would allow us to build, you know, a better, more urban appropriate building on the street. You know, it's a very prominent intersection, transit corridor. And then in the back, there's also a small request for a reduction of the 20-foot rear setback to a 10-foot setback adjacent to the existing industrial property that's behind us. And so we are, I wanted to make sure everybody was informed about that request. It's going before Metro and is pending consideration with the Board of Zoning Appeals. We are currently on the agenda on October 1st. Many of you that live nearby should have received some mailers in the mail from us directly informing you with information about that meeting, as well as there are signs posted on site with additional information on how you can connect to that meeting as well in October. So happy to answer any questions related to that or anything else. Like I said, I know we've taken up a lot of your time tonight, but we really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and to tell you a little bit about what we're hoping to accomplish here on the Dickerson corridor.
Well, thanks so much for being here, you guys. Appreciate the presentation. If nobody else has any other questions, I'll wait just a second.
And I can, I don't know if it's helpful, Sarah, I know you have my information, but I can also try to leave it in the chat box like the commissioner did earlier, if that's helpful. You know, if anybody has any follow-ups or has neighbors that would like more information, please don't hesitate to let us know, and we're glad to talk more.
Sounds great. Well, thanks so much for the presentation. If nobody else has anything from the group, that's our last presentation for the evening. So thank you everyone for joining our September meeting, and we'll see you back in October, second Thursday of the month at 6:30.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Scott, I will share your contact info too if you and add it to the video, so that way people can grab it, because it may leave the chat when I leave, so, or when I end the meeting.
Okay.
So
Great.
I'll just add it to the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Scott. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.